only at night.
Krista Helm was a beautiful 27-year-old aspiring actress, model, and single mother. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worst when Krista decided to spill all of her Hollywood secrets in the form of a diary. On February 12, 1977, Krista Helm and her then roommate Stephanie attended a Hollywood gathering when Krista decided to leave the party and drive to Sandy Smith's home with her roommate's car. Sandy Smith was known to some as a Hollywood talent agent. Krista would eventually make it to Sandy Smith's house, only to be viciously attacked and stabbed over 30 times. Krista Helm was born on November 11, 1949, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Known as Sandra Lynn Woolfield, she was the daughter of an asphalt company owner and the stay-at-home mother. Krista's parents decided to split up right before Krista turned 3. Krista's father eventually remarried and had 2 more children. Sadly for her mother, that was not the case. Her mother Dolores spun into a vicious cycle of alcoholism and depression, leading to many unhealthy and abusive relationships with men. It is said that Krista's mother invited in all of these men only to have them sexually abuse all 3 of her daughters, including Krista. Eventually, the situation progressed and all 3 sisters were permanently moved to live with her father. Krista's wild behavior started at a very young age. In her hometown of Wisconsin, she was known to many as the wild child who did any and everything for attention. Eventually, at the age of 16, Krista became pregnant with then 26-year-old Gary Clemens. Under the pressure of both of Krista's parents, both Gary and Krista got married, shotgun style. At just 17 years of age, Krista gave birth to a baby girl she named Nicole. Several months later, her husband Gary Clemens disappeared. Months followed, and Krista was told that her husband had allegedly died in a motorcycle accident in Florida. There is still no proof of that story. Krista eventually kept dating around, and soon enough she got a job as a waitress in a local restaurant. She then befriended her coworker Diane Mitchell, who she moved in with. Both Krista and Diane were very close friends, and Diane would recount Krista inviting a number of people to their apartment. Diane claims that Krista was friendly to everyone, sometimes a bit too much. She would invite strange men to their apartment, which led to drinking and at times hard partying. Both Krista and Diane would be formally invited to a Playboy club in Geneva by their boss. This was where Krista would meet actor and singer James Darren. After Krista's daughter turned 2, both Diane and Krista decided to leave their daughters in the care of a nanny in Vermont while they made their big move to New York City to pursue acting. After moving to New York, Krista got a job as a waitress at the Gaslight Club, where she met and started a secret love affair with Buffalo Bills player Ray Abruzzi. At the time, Krista had booked a few modeling jobs, working her way up the entertainment ladder. Krista kept her party agenda active while living in New York City, and soon enough she met Broadway producer Stuart Duncan, a very well-off man who progressively made his way from the stage to the screen. During their long-time friendship, Stuart Duncan helped to put her into more gigs, helping her buy property and a luxury car. Stuart gave Krista her breakout role in the 1974 film Go for Broke. Stuart also created the Broadway musical Godspell, putting Krista on several years of credit and good fortune. Krista eventually made her move from New York City to Los Angeles, where she got herself put into Hollywood's inner circle. Krista would take it a bit further and would submit stories about herself to gossip columns. Krista was able to link herself to Mick Jagger, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, and others. Her charm and good looks were her secret weapon. Krista eventually met longtime financier Bernard Cornfield, and not too long after moved into his 39-room mansion located at Carolinian Drive. Bernard had allegedly housed several different women, and the house was said to have been known as a nonstop party house filled with crazy and outlandish raves that involved nonstop drunken escapades and sex. Krista fit right in. Krista was said to have kept a diary filled with many secrets. This diary had allegedly contained stories of every sexual encounter that she had, with both men and women, including threesomes. Krista was also known to have openly discussed every last detail to her friends. At times, her friends felt uncomfortable with how open Krista seemed regarding these discussions, and some even asked her not to speak on these stories. Nevertheless, Krista kept record of everything and even took the diary with her everywhere. Some believed that Krista kept this diary as a memoir to write a book. Others believed that she was keeping the diary as a way to blackmail big Hollywood figures in the industry, a means of gaining more work as an actress. Eventually, Krista would dabble her way into music, getting herself signed by Casablanca Records. Krista recorded disco music and even worked with up-and-coming record producer DJ Frankie Crocker, who did not get along very well with Krista at all. Both Krista and DJ Frankie Crocker decided to part ways, and unfortunately for Krista, her music career hit a huge road bump. Krista's partying and drinking progressed, and eventually she would get herself mixed up with a group of people that would later tell her other friends that she was afraid of them. While recording her disco album, Krista started a romantic relationship with one of her background singers, Patty Collins. Patty Collins and Krista Helm were inseparable. Unfortunately, Patty had probably taken Krista more seriously than Krista took her, and most of the time Patty had kept a close eye on Krista. Things got even more complicated when Debbie Danilo, another fellow background singer, entered the mix. It was said that Krista flirted several times with Debbie, and being that Debbie was afraid of Patty, she did her very best to keep her distance from Krista. On the night of February 12, 1977, Krista was known to have made it to the front of Sandy Smith's home. When police had arrived at the scene, after the fact, they noticed that the car that Krista borrowed had appeared to have been jammed on the sidewalk corner. The car had seemed to have suddenly stopped with a possible struggle taking place. Eyewitnesses also confirmed that they heard two women and a man arguing loudly to one another. Eventually, many others would hear loud screeching, similar to that of a cat getting skinned alive. Krista had defensive wounds on both of her hands, indicating a struggle of self-defense. Not only was Krista viciously stabbed over 30 times, but she was also beaten with an unknown object, possibly with the handle of the knife or a hammer. The murder weapon was never found. Not only was the murder weapon missing, but the secret diary that Krista kept all of her secrets in was also gone. Limo driver Thurman Brooks claimed to have seen her take her last breath shortly after discovering her lifeless body. Oddly enough, a year later, Thurman Brooks would be found murdered. It was said to have been a drug-related killing. All that police had to go on was Krista's roommate's allegations of Sandy Smith refusing to attend the party that Krista had invited him to shortly before she drove to his house. When asked about the phone call, Sandy Smith claims that he was sound asleep and never heard anything. He also claims to have not spoken to Krista that night. Because it was the 1970s, police had no record of a call list since back then there were no cell phones and everyone used payphones. Other witnesses claimed that Sandy Smith's claim of being asleep at the time was false. Allegedly, there were people coming in and out of Sandy's house, and the limo driver that found Krista was actually making his way to Sandy's house. Police made their way to the music studio where Krista had recorded her previous disco album and found a number of issues with what they heard recorded at the studio. Allegedly, Krista had denied all allegations of being lesbian, even though it was said that Krista and Patty were having sexual relations with one another. This upset Patty a great deal. When police decided to look for Patty for interrogation, she was nowhere to be found. There were also numerous accounts of Krista wearing a Tommy Boy logo purse containing her sex diary inside of it. Neither the purse nor the diary were ever found. Rudy Mozella was also known as a prime suspect in the murder of Christa Helm. Mozella was a known drug dealer and also roommates with Blair Aronson, the keyboardist that helped put together Christa's album. It was alleged that Christa helped Rudy store large amounts of cocaine for Mozella. Mozella allegedly got enraged once he found out that Christa had stolen large amounts of cocaine from him. Several years later, it was said that Rudy was bragging to others that he had committed the murder. Unfortunately, Mozella passed away around the time that the case was reopened, so there was no way for police to interrogate him. Another possible suspect was Tony Sirico, the actor that played Tony Walnuts in The Sopranos. According to Christa's former roommate Stephanie, Tony Sirico had allegedly decided to stop by their house to check up on Christa's welfare, only to steal a number of furs from both women as well as recordings that Christa kept, recording several accounts of her personal life. So the question is this: was it any one of these people mentioned, or was it an unknown Hollywood heavyweight possibly mentioned in Christa's secret sex diary? If you have any information on the murder of Christa Helm, please call the Homicide Cold Case Unit at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department at 323-890-5500. That's 323-890-5500. You can remain anonymous.